Hey everybody, welcome to Bar Z. I'm doing a voiceover here because I'm underneath my truck with it running, and all you would be able to hear is a diesel running. So I'm showing you the play in the steering arms, and we're moving up to the steering box here. I've got some side to side play, actually right where the output shaft is to the steering box, and there's another one of my the drag link, and there's another rod end. And we've got some accumulative errors in this front end. And here I'm showing you this is the track bar, and that's got a little bit of play from some oil-soaked rubber bushings. And here's the other end of the track bar right here, and you can probably see a little side-to-side movement there. So we're going to address this, and let's get into it a little deeper. Okay, well, in the last section of video, the truck was running and my wife was in there taking up, it's just steering it slightly, just till, I can find the play. And you probably saw this tie rod end was just hosed. You probably tell I just got new ball joints put in, top and bottom, all the way around, and these are the Moog problem solvers. They use a Belleville washer, and it's a zero clearance type ball joint. Really nice ball joints. I mean, they got great reviews, and Moog's always been really good stuff. But the steering is our next thing, and the track bar. This is the track bar right here, and it's just kind of a diagonal bar to keep the front end aligned in this direction, because on coil spring, parallel arm type front ends, the front end moving back and forth is an issue. So I got new track bar bushings, and then all new steering, and then we've got new sway bar cushions here, and sway bar bushings that go in here. Plus we've got a steering box brace, and I'll show you what that's all about. That's pretty interesting. We're switching over to the next generation steering. If you'll notice, this rod here goes up to the steering box. Oh no, this one goes over the other wheel. I'm sorry. This rod is the one going, see the Pitman arm up there on the steering box? So this arm comes straight in and goes right to this wheel, and then this rod comes over and grabs the other wheel. Now this is called a Y type. So I'm going to the next generation. This is a 2007, and they had I think they had a mid-year break point. About 2007 and a half, they switched from the Y steering to the T steering. Okay, I'm gonna show you what that's all about. I got the Moog box over here, and they've got a pretty clear picture of it. This is called the T steering. Comes with a new Pitman arm, and then this rod comes down, and you notice now it doesn't connect to the wheel anymore. This is where it connects to the wheel. It connects to the actual rod, so you've got one solid tie rod that goes between both wheels here, instead of the Y type. So this is the T type. So Pitman arm is at a different angle, and then this drag link actually connects to the center link, and it even comes with a new steering damper. Although I just bought a new Bilstein, I'm probably going to just reuse that and keep that one as a spare. But this comes as a kit. This is a Moog DS 8009 80A, and it's a complete steering assembly. And like I say, I trust Moog, so we're putting that in. Track bar bushings and sway bar bushings. So those are going in too. And then also I have a steering stabilizer kit from Rough Country. Uses this bearing. Uses this funny looking nut. This replaces your Pitman arm nut. And then it uses this brace right here. That bearing mounts to that right there, and this bolts in underneath the sway bar. And you probably saw in the video when the truck was running, when I was sitting there wiggling it, I had play, all Dodges have play on the Pitman arm shaft coming out of the steering box. Even though they're not leaking, brand new, they will still have side-to-side play and side loading. This brace does two things. It boxes in the frame rails to keep the frame rails from flexing, and this nut right here goes through that bearing I showed you earlier, the old blue bearing, and that keeps that shaft from wiggling around. So that's a pretty interesting fix. These are really popular. So, and none of this is a cure-all. You know, all this stuff, you're stacking. It's like stacking errors in machine work. You know, you got accumulative errors, and here you've got accumulative play until you've got enough play that you've got the infamous Dodge death wobble. So hopefully this is all going to get rid of it between the ball joints, the tie rod ends, the track bar bushings, and the steering slop. I think we're going to get it all. All right, let's get this stuff installed. Okay, so this nut on the pitman arm is probably metric. I mean, I got it loose, no problem. I used a 1 5/16 socket, and it knocked it right off. It was a little loose, but as long as you use a 6-point, there's no chance of it slipping. I don't have a metric set that goes that big, but that pitman arm's got to come off. Next up, puller. We're just going to use a bar puller to get around it, and we've got a nice center in there to put this puller in, so that pitman arm's coming off, and we're just going to take the drag link with it. All right, so the drag link's coming off with it, and the splines are, trying to get you to look up at that. The splines are keyed, so you can't put the pitman arm on wrong. See the 4 keys in it there, north, south, east, and west, so you can't put it on wrong. All right, I'm hoping the new pitman arm is going to fit. I've seen some stories where they don't, but I think that's on the older trucks. This is a pretty popular upgrade. I just thought I'd cover it. All right, so let's get a bar puller on there and get that pitman arm off, and then the drag link's going to come right with it. Well, we got the pitman arm off, and I just used my bar puller. My bar puller's like never failed me. I've pulled all kinds of bearings, and I've pulled all kinds of fans and gears and pulleys and all kinds of stuff with it, but it doesn't make a good pitman arm puller because we kept slipping off up here. You got very limited space to get in between the steering box and the pitman arm. You only got maybe a 1/4 inch to get in there. And these, with this angle, they kept slipping. So it's diamide to the rescue. Just put a diamide clamp on it to keep them slipping. Apply a little pressure. And I took a MAP gas torch and warmed it up to about 300. And then had a spray bottle ready to, after it popped off, I sprayed down the shaft so I didn't cook the seal in the steering box. And I checked the shaft right after it pulled. I checked the shaft, and the shaft was only about 100 1/4, so I don't think I did the seal any damage. All right, but that's been the hardest part. I've been on that for about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, getting that turkey off of there. And the new one, let me grab the new one. I'll show you the difference between the new pitman arm and the old pitman arm. Okay, so there's your difference. We got the same splined hole, same keyed splined hole, but the old arm crooks up, and the new one's flat. And it's for geometry sake or whatever. You know, I'm not an engineer. I don't know why, but it probably keeps the tie rod end from cocking, you know, so that everything runs straight. I'm sure that's what it is. So that's part of the kit, is a new pitman arm. And that kit's a bargain. I think it's about $400 for the whole Marianne. It's the whole steering linkage, pitman arm, all the tie rod ends, all new adjusters, new steering stabilizer, and it's all Moog. It's all good stuff. Alrighty. Okay, we've got all the steering out, and while it's out, if you're going to do the track bar, now's the time to do it, because the steering arm really gets in your way. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's a lot easier to get to the bolts and stuff for the track bar. So I got the track bar out, and I removed the old bushings. The old trick, you press out the center sleeve, the rubber bushing, and it breaks the vulcanizing in the outer shell. Then you use the air chisel trick to just kind of destroy the shell and push it out of the bore. So that's what you end up with. And the new ones are just 2-piece. They're by Energy Suspension. It's a urethane that'll have to be pressed in. They're going to be really tight on the way in. And then after they're in, then you actually have to press these in, and that puts a radial load on them and expands these out into the track bars. So make sure your track bars are clean and free of burrs, any burrs that can, you know, dig into the urethane, and they give you lube. Back in the old race car days, we didn't get lube. When we used to do off-road cars, we'd have to put all our urethane bushings together with talcum powder, or they would squeak like you wouldn't believe, especially when they're new. So, and then after they wear in, the talcum powder falls out, and then you're off to the races. Most literally, in the most literal sense, you're off to the races. Anyway, energy suspension, good to see they're still around. And we got rid of the old oil-soaked factory bushings there. You can see where it tore away the vulcanizing there, was where it was vulcanized into the shell. All right, so those are gone. And what I do want to mention too is now's the time to check the mounting holes for these, where the bolts go in. If they became loose and they're elongated, you need to repair those holes and change the bolts if you need to. Mine were still tight. All I had was a little bit of bushing wear from I had a little oil leak in the oil pan on the driver's side, and one of those bushings got oil soaked and got a little soft. Urethane doesn't care whether it gets an oil splash on it every now and then, but the natural rubber sure does. Okay. Anyways, track bar is going in, then we can start doing the steering. Okay, old bushings out, new bushings in. You press out the outer shell first, or press in the outer shell first, and then you lube the sleeve. Don't lube the outer shell. Put the urethane in first with no lube, and then put the sleeve in with lube. You want it to pivot there, not out at the arm. Okay, so new bushings are in, and the lube they give is really thick. It's like a silicone paste. Pretty nice. So the track bar is ready to go back in, and then we can attack steering after that turkey's in. All right, we can actually start putting this truck back together. Okay, next up we turn our attention to the sway bar, and we've got the new bushings in. The old bushings came out. They're a little difficult to get off. These are not split. I guess I could have cut them, but these are just a natural rubber. And the new ones are again by Energy Suspension. They're urethane, and these are split right here. So I don't think you'd be able to hook them around that corner. They're so firm. And again with the lube, you know, we use the tube of Formula 5, whatever that is. Feels like a silicone paste. Anyways, we got it in there so these don't squeak on us. Uses the factory hardware hold downs, and then we have new donut bushings and washers where it attaches to the axle. And this sway bar goes in with the steering box brace. These holes here that are slotted bolt in under this fella here, so that bolts in there, and I'll show you what it's in. This is what gets the bearing for the actual steering box, that giant nut I put on, and then same thing over on the other side. So sway bar and steering box brace go in at the same time. All right, but we're finally assembling truck. You know, I got the track bar in. There's your track bar with the new bushing. All right, and off in the distance you can see that nut on the steering box and the new pitman arm. Okay, so let's get the rest of this in, and then we'll do steering last. Okay, I'm trying to get an angle here so you can see everything. Sway bar went in here, and then the steering box brace went in here with it, and it's got that bracket. It uses a pillow block that supports that pinion shaft on the steering box. So even a brand new box will have a little bit of wiggle to it. This does two things. It boxes the frame rail. It works like another cross member. This is a box tube frame, not a channel frame, but it adds another cross member all the way across. And that bolts in underneath the sway bar. So we got our new sway bar bushings in, we got the steering box brace in, and that pillow block just gets just put anti-seize on the shaft and inside the bearing. If you're able to take it off, it needs to slide off, and it just bolts in. Bolt that in first, and then tighten your sway bar bushings because we had slotted holes back behind here. All right, but that part's done. And now we're going to work on our steering knuckles and all our steering linkage and everything. That's kind of the last thing. All right. And I promised you a side-by-side comparison of the steering. Let's get those laid out on the ground so I can show you that. Okay, as promised, I'm doing a side-by-side comparison. My old one is down here at the bottom, and this is considered a Y linkage. And here it comes off the steering box here. You see this one goes straight over to the passenger side wheel, and then off of the drag link, it comes all the way over to the other wheel. And then that hole there is for the steering damper. This is the next generation linkage. This is just a drag link. But the rod that goes from wheel all the way to wheel is one, basically one rod. It doesn't have a pivot in the center. And I don't know if you can tell or not, but it's a much larger bar. And they use a U-bolt with a mount to adjust for your steering damper. I'll show you the size of these rod arms. See, they're much larger. Look at the diameter of that. And look at the diameter of that. And that's a steel forging there. This is all Moog stuff, too. And all brand new. And they all use, they're all serviceable. They'll all take grease fittings. They'll use the Belleville washers and all that for zero lash. But that's why we had to change that pitman arm, because of the different angle this drag link needs. All right, and I showed you the pitman arm, I showed you the pitman arm before. It's already installed, so I didn't have it here on the side-by-side. But even the center bar, you can see here, there's a larger bar than this one. Okay, so that's next gen linkage. And what I'm going to do now, you adjust your center to center distance with that one there. That's what adjusts your center to center. I took a measurement from pin to pin with a tape measure, so I'm going to duplicate that on here to get my wheel straight enough to get it to the alignment shop. And then this one here aligns your center of your wheel. So those are your two adjustments. Before, you'd have to center your wheel with this one here and get the passenger side wheel straight. And then this one here would just adjust just the one wheel. So the alignment procedure is a little different on this one. Okay. Anyways, that's the Moog setup. That's the final for this. At this point, I had new ball joints put in it. I didn't do it myself. I just took it in and had it done. The guy was done in three hours. He had all the tools for it, and I didn't feel like tackling it. So I had Moog ball joints put in it. But I put in my own track bar bushings. We're doing the steering, we're doing the steering box brace, and we're doing the sway bar bushings. And hopefully this will get rid of the Dodge death wobble. But you saw when I first started the video, I had a bunch of play in that one, had a little bit here, and the track bar was moving side to side. It's hard to detect, but it is noticeable. And even the steering box pinion was wiggling a little bit. So that steering box brace is going to take care of that. All right, time to finally put the steering in, button this turkey up. Okay, we're coming up on a final. I got a hillbilly alignment device here. No offense to Steve Summers, he's a smart guy. And sometimes there's just nothing wrong with hillbilly. I'm good with it. Do this on one side, get it clamped up on the studs, make sure it's sitting tightly against the flange. And then you just run a tape measure from one side to the other to get your toe in. This will at least get me to the alignment shop. And there's the rest of our steering. I'm going to show you everything. I used my old steering damper. There's the old Bilstein under there. It was only about a month old, so I went ahead and reused it. What you have to do with that, if you remember, my old one used a stud mount. And this one already has that U-bolt set up right there on the linkage to the double U-bolts. I had to grind off the rivet and pull the stud out of the shock or the steering damper and then it fit perfectly. It just went right on. So we've got all greasable fittings everywhere now. There's your Moog right there. There's the rest of the Moogers. And there's our steering box brace. And our new Pitman arm and everything else. So we're lined up good enough to get to the alignment shop. We're going to button this up. But all these mods are just to take care of the Dodge death wobble. I don't ever want to experience that again. It happened to me about 4 times on the way back from Northern California. And it's all you can do to get this thing shut down. And it doesn't stop till you get down about 20 miles an hour. But fresh ball joints. Top and bottom, both. I don't know if I can get you down to see that other one or not. It's in there. Yep. Anyways, boys, we're going to put the wheels back on it and button this up. I appreciate you watching. This is a 2007 Dodge 3500 with Dodge Death Wobble, and I did all this to make that go away. I've got about $1,000 into this front end at this point. Okay, thanks for watching.